Today we're going to learn about wildlife photography. How should we do wildlife photography? What does it take to be a wildlife photographer? We have with us today two wildlife photographers who are going to share with us their experiences, their knowledge and their insights on wildlife photography. Mr. Gopinath Srikandan has been in the field of wildlife photography since 2000. Mr. Sanjay Prasad Ganguly did his Masters in Ecology and Environmental Sciences from Pondicherry University. But much before that, he started doing wildlife photography in 2010. Let's find out from Mr. Gopinath and Mr. Sanjay on how to become a wildlife photographer. My first question is that what does it take to be a wildlife photographer?
I think the most important thing to become a wildlife photographer is the interest in the subject, followed by the knowledge over animals. It also depends on which animals you would like to work on, so you could specialize your knowledge on that particular species. But primarily it is the interest followed by knowledge, and perhaps, or I wouldn't say perhaps, it is the next third important thing is patience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. And for me, I was very fortunate with finding my drive and my motivation to follow wildlife since a very early age. And then, of course, as you have covered, ma'am, that my masters, right before that, the knowledge aspect took forth, and yeah, here we are today.
I think knowledge is something that you will acquire one step at a time. So, you know, when I started wildlife photography, I was just interested in looking at birds, but I didn't know their names. And in my mother tongue, Tamil, most of the egrets and herons were all called with a generic name called kokku. And kokku in some form or the other translated as crane in English. So I thought everything was a crane. Everything white that flew, I thought was a crane. But it took time before I understood each species, the differences between them and the names. And as photography also became an interest for me, then I started taking photographs. Then I started comparing with these photographs with the bird books, and I started sharing it with my friends, and that is how knowledge, little by little, one step at a time, I gathered knowledge about animals, in this case birds. So I would take a photograph, show it to my friends or show it to people who are interested in birds. So they would kind of look at it and correct what I thought was wrong. They would give the correct identification of those birds. And then there were very few literature those days to refer to other than the bird book. Those days it was the Salim Ali book of birds that I used to refer to. So I would take a picture, then sit with the bird book for identification. So it took time, but the fact that I was interested in it, I was persistent, and every time I went back either to the book or to somebody who knew about these birds. So that's how I built up my knowledge over the period of time. So now today I know just enough, or I know enough to kind of bring new people who are interested into the field.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I remember my days as well and my days will date back further because I was much younger. And I remember sitting in the schoolyard and looking at birds, and it was very unusual that for a child that young just to be looking at birds. And at that point, I think when you're young, you pick up things much quicker. So I tended to pick up the names of birds quicker, although like it would be hard for me to get access to equipments, rather to be, you know, allowed permission to use a binocular or something like that. So because I was still very young, so it was more of an adventure for me. And while all my friends, when we'd go to outings from our school, they would be busy trying to make noise and scream around and play in the water, I would be on another corner quietly looking at little bugs and things under the leaves. So it was a very unusual start for me if you look at it from someone else's point of view. But for me, I never thought of it as something unusual or like that, something out of the ordinary. It was something that was completely from within myself. It was something that drove me. And I didn't yet find an interest to learn as such. I was just intrigued by everything. Everything I wanted to see and just keep looking at it. I didn't think of learning the names and all of that. But automatically those things came along, because I soon needed to convey what I'm seeing to someone else. As you know, my parents would ask me, what are you doing there? What are you looking at? So then I couldn't describe it to them. That's when I started looking up the books, and I'd be like, okay, here's what I was looking at, this is what it does. and so everything snowballed into, again, a bigger process that it is today.
I think what Sanjay says is absolutely correct, because before you become a wildlife photographer, you first become a naturalist. First you look at the species, whichever species you are interested in, whether it's a small bug or a bird or a large mammal. First you should have an interest in looking at them, trying to understand them, or just derive some joy in looking at them. And that is the first step to getting into a photography, in this case wildlife photography. So without that interest, I think you would be rather forcing yourself to, or rather kind of following the typical the notes that they give you about how to go about taking a photograph. So in those photographs, what is going to be lacking is the soul. Yes. So I think if you are first a naturalist, then photography is one technique that you acquire to get that right, beautiful, or rather a communicating wildlife photography or wildlife picture.
Great. So what we've learned so far is that we need a certain interest and inclination in the subject of wildlife photography, which draws us closer to the species whom we want to know and understand through the process of photography. And as rightly shared by Sanjay and Gopinath, that a lot of qualities come into play here, being a keen naturalist, having an eye for detail, observing what's happening around you, being willing to be alone so that you can listen to the bird calls and you can pay attention to what is happening. And that takes us to the next area of expertise that we need to understand for being a wildlife photographer, which is what are the qualities that are needed to be a wildlife photographer.
Being a keen observer is very important to make your right pictures. I will tell you my personal experience with the black bucks. The first time I went to the Point Calumet Bird and Wildlife Sanctuary, I saw the black buck bouncing. That bounce captivated me. I was mesmerized by the bounce. And luckily I was working for the forest department that time, so I worked there for 1 year. But in all these 1 years, I was trying to capture the black buck in the air when it bounced. Okay, but every time I took a shot, it was never satisfactory. So what I did was, I for sometimes just gave up taking photographs of the buck bouncing. I just observed it. From morning to evening, I would just trail these groups, herds of black bucks, and just observe them. Of course, I had the luxury to stay in the park for as much time I wanted. So it took nearly 4 months for me to get a hang of how they behave. One, I didn't want to startle them. Quite often they jumped when they are startled. So I felt a little bit guilty about startling them so that they bounce and then I get a nice picture. But then 4 months went on. One day I was there was a lone male buck that was there in a depression. It looked at me, I looked at it, and I kind of ensured that, to the extent possible, that I was no threat. So the male looked at me for a while. I kept quiet, but then for somewhere, from my observations perhaps it was, I somewhere felt today is the day I'm going to get my shot. So all I did was, I was ready with my camera. I was just sitting quiet. So I was looking at the buck, the buck kept looking at me, then slowly it started walking across the horizon. Then it began running, and then it bounced. So all I could get between that time was only 2 shots. One as the buck was looking at me, and the second shot was when it was midair, bouncing. So here some people think, a motor drive or a burst mode in your camera would help. Well, it helps only to a certain extent, but you never get the right moment you want with a burst mode. So it is always the moment you click the photograph, or in some sense you say, pulling the trigger. So don't get too hung up with the equipment or the camera with a very high burst rate. All that is fine. It helps a little bit, but then getting the right picture is all about when you take that shot. So it took, here if you look at it, it took 4 months of observation to know the species, to know the black buck in this case, and then patiently waiting for 4 months, but at the same time being prepared all the time. You'll never know when the moment will present itself in front of you. So you have to be absolutely prepared, keep your equipment in the correct mode, in the correct setup. I mean, all these things you learn over a period of time. But then what helped me in this case to get the shot was the amount of time I spent in observing and understanding the species about their behavior.
Yeah,
Great.
I totally can relate to that because I remember the first time I heard my friend, my teacher and a mentor of mine, he was speaking to me about this little lizard that is found in Pondicherry. It's actually named after Pondicherry, which is, the scientific name goes Sitana ponticeriana. So it was first scientifically described in Pondicherry. And one of the most amazing and interesting facts about this lizard is its display, which it does when attracting mates as well as defending its territory. So what it does, it rises on a little perch, and it can be a little stump of wood on the ground, or it can also be a little branch or a clump of rock, anywhere that's in the open. And it has got a dewlap, which is a flap of skin that hangs loose under the throat, and which it displays in a like a fan. And many species across India have got colors on it, whereas the one found here doesn't have too much of a color. It's just got a little bit of blue, but it's still very, very captivating because it's something that belongs to Pondi, something that a place that I call home. So it was something that was on my hit list for a long time, and it took me years. And I was following them. I would look at their behavior, but I could never crack it as to what it was that triggered or was the cue for this behavior to occur. So after reading a lot, I found out that they have a breeding period, a mating season of several months across India. No one has really recorded the exact dates for a particular subspecies which is in Pondicherry, but an entire range of months. So firstly, I had my work cut out. I had a whole range of months within which to look at this particular reptile, follow it. And then I had all these years of observation during those months that finally took me to a point where I observed one of them approaching a little stump. Now it's because of my knowledge and all the patience and all finding the lizards exactly where the males are, where the females are, that I could finally approach this male and get the shots that I wanted. And they have been, I think, the most memorable. I mean, if people ask me which was your favorite shot, the first thing I pull up on my phone to show is this lizard. It says a lot about the wildlife of where I am from, as well as the kind of work. Like in that one picture, you can talk about heaps of work that you have put in, and the time and effort and observation and everything that you said. Everything goes into that as well. So yeah.
We have seen and we know that anticipating the moment, knowing what is the moment that we need to get with our cameras, having patience and knowing our subject is very important, no matter which area of photography we are going into.